Hi, just jumping on here to provide a quick update on the automated translation software for newsrooms that we have been working on at Download Creative. We have added some new features rather than just translating with Google. We now have translation from Anthropic's Claude and OpenAI's ChatGPT. There's still a minor issue, which I'll come back to later. But first, let's have a look at Kai Havertz.
Am Anfang wurde viel darüber gesprochen, dass hier in Bremen frischer Wind durch das neue Trainergespann entstanden ist. Du hast den Anfang von der Bank gesehen. Die Bremer standen vorn unheimlich kompakt. Manchmal wurde es vielleicht etwas kompliziert bei euch vom 16er. Ja, so sah es von der Tribüne aus. Wie sah es bei dir aus?
Ja, ich glaube auch. Also in den ersten 10 Minuten haben die Bremer natürlich viel Druck gemacht. Aber dann haben wir das Spiel immer mehr in den Griff bekommen und natürlich haben die einen Rückenwind mit den ganzen Zuschauern, die haben hier eine Riesenstimmung abgeliefert und es ist natürlich umso schwerer dann hier noch zu spielen. Aber ich glaube, wir hatten das Spiel in unserer Hand und hätten eigentlich mehr verdient gehabt.
Es war eine Wahnsinns-Teamleistung. Man hatte immer das Gefühl, dass immer einer von Beine 4 da war, der geholfen hat hinten. Ja, siehst du das auch so?
Ja, klar, natürlich. Ich glaube, jeder hat heute jedem geholfen, aber es hat halt nicht gereicht und jetzt müssen wir einfach weitermachen am Dienstag gegen Tottenham und ja, das Spiel einfach abhaken und daraus lernen.
Kai, a German footballer, translated to English using Google Translate.
At the beginning of the game, we were told that the new trainer in Bremen was excited about it. You saw the start of the bench. The Bremen stood in front of me and compacted me. Sometimes it was a little bit complicated for you from the 16th. Susos from the tribune. How did you feel about it?
Yes, I think so too. In the first 10 minutes, we made the Bremen a lot of pressure, but then we always had more in the grip. Oh, of course, we got the back grip with all the players. We had a lot of pressure and it was hard to play here. But I think we had the game in our hand and we had more in our hands.
It was a very team performance. You always had the feeling that one of the 4 of you was there. Did you see that?
Yes, of course. I think you helped each other a lot today, but it didn't work out. Now we just have to keep going against Tottenham. We just have to get out and learn from it.
Now let's translate Kai with Claude Sonnet 4.5.
At the beginning, there was a lot of talk about fresh wind being brought to Bremen through the new trainer. You saw the beginning from the bank. The Bremen players were in front and marked me tightly. Sometimes it might have gotten a bit complicated with you guys from the 16th. Yes, Susos from the stands. How was it for you?
Yes, I think so too. So in the first 10 minutes, Bremen certainly put a lot of pressure on, but then we got more and more control of the game, and of course they had momentum with all the spectators. They really delivered a huge atmosphere and it made it even more difficult to play here. But I believe we had the game in our hands and actually deserved more.
It was an insane team performance. You always had the feeling that there was always one of the 4 legs there who helped at the back. Yes, do you see it that way too?
Yes, of course, naturally. I believe everyone helped out today, but it was actually enough. And now we just have to carry on Tuesday against Tottenham. And yes, then we just practice parking.
And the last translation for Kai Havertz, translated by ChatGPT.
In the beginning, there was a lot of talk about the fresh wind that has arisen here in Bremen due to the new coaching team. You saw the beginning from the bench. The Bremen team was ahead and compact. Sometimes things might have gotten a bit complicated for you guys from the 16th. Yes, Susos from the stands. What did it look like for you?
Yes, I think so too. In the first 10 minutes, Bremen put a lot of pressure on, but then we got more and more control of the game, and of course they had the support of all the spectators. They created a great atmosphere, and it made it more difficult to play here. But I believe we had the game in our hands and actually deserved more.
It was an incredible team effort. You always had the feeling that there was always one of the 4 legs there to help at the back. Yes, do you see it that way too?
Yes, sure, of course. I think everyone helped today, but it was actually enough. And now we just have to keep going on Tuesday against Tottenham. And yes, we just...
The next translation, going from English, the current Prime Minister of Australia. At the time of this recording, he was the leader of the Australian opposition, Anthony Albanese.
And Anthony Albanese joins us now live from the caucus room here at Parliament House in Canberra. Tomorrow you will become the Labor leader. You'll address your colleagues here in the caucus room. What will you tell them?
Well, the first thing I'll say is acknowledge the great privilege and honour of being the 21st leader of the Australian Labor Party. We have such an amazing history.
Now let's translate Albanese from English to French. This is using Google Translate.
Anthony Albanese nous rejoint en direct de la salle du groupe parlementaire ici, au Parlement Point. Une chambre à Canberra. Demain, vous deviendrez le chef du Parti travailliste. Vous vous adresserez à votre cher collègue ici dans la salle de réunion. Que leur direz-vous? Eh bien, la première chose que je dirais, c'est...
Je reconnais le grand privilège et l'honneur d'être le 21e dirigeant du Parti travailliste australien. Nous avons une histoire extraordinaire.
Now let's translate him into Italian with Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 4.5.
E Anthony Albanese si unisce a noi ora, in diretta dalla sala del caucus, qui in Parlamento, casa Canberra. Domani diventerai leader laburista. Ti rivolgerai al tuo colleghi qui nella sala del gruppo parlamentare. Cosa gli dirai? Beh, la prima cosa che dirò è...
Riconosco il grande privilegio e l'onore di essere il 21esimo leader del Partito Laburista Australiano.ru. Abbiamo una storia così straordinaria.
And the final Albanese translation using OpenAI's ChatGPT into Dutch.
En Anthony Albanese sluit zich nu bij ons aan vanuit de fractiekamer hier in het parlement. Huis in Canberra. Morgen word je de leider van de Arbeidspartij. Je zult je richten tot je collega's hier in de caucuszaal. Wat ga je hen vertellen? Nou, het eerste dat ik zal zeggen is...
Erken de grote eer en het voorrecht om de 21ste leider van de Australische Labour Party te zijn. We hebben zo...
The final subject of these translations is the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez.
Una de las peticiones que llegan con fuerza desde Cataluña es el acercamiento de políticos catalanes presos a las cárceles catalanas. ¿Eso su gobierno se lo plantea? ¿Eso está sobre la mesa?
Yo creo que es razonable que una vez termine el periodo de instrucción, en el momento en el que el juez lo considere, instituciones penitenciarias tome la decisión.
Now let's translate Sánchez from Spanish to English using Google Translate.
One of the petitions that comes in force from Catalonia is the approach of politicians. Power stuck to the tar lines. That's what the governments raise. That's about it. Table. Bye.
I think it is reasonable that once the period of instruction in it ends, when the judge considers it, penitentiary institutions make the decision.
This is using Anthropic's Claude Sonnet 4.5.
One of the requests that arrive forcefully from Catalonia is the rapprochement of politicians, criminals imprisoned in the jails, criminals that or governments raise it. That is on the table one. I
think it is reasonable that once the instruction period ends in the moment in which the judge considers it, prison institutions make the decision.
And finally, this is just to show you how it's all done. We grab the clip and drag it over into WordPress. You can either select the language the clip is in, or in this case I'm just going to have it auto-detect. The target language is English, and translate. Go and get a coffee and wait. It could take several minutes for it to translate. Once translated, initially you'll see the transcribed text and then the translation underneath that. And see if it works. So just press play.
One of the requests coming strongly from Catalonia is the transfer of politicians. Gypsies imprisoned in gypsy jails. That's what governments propose. That's on the view. Table.
I believe it is reasonable that once the instruction period ends in theory, the moment the judge deems it appropriate,
The issue that I mentioned earlier is that it's not syncing at the moment. As you can see, the two translations aren't syncing up. As you can see here, the end of that clip, it had decisions at the end, but the actual audio, it didn't end with that word decisions.
One of the requests coming strongly from Catalonia is the transfer of politicians. Gypsies imprisoned in gypsy jails. That's what governments propose. That's on the view. Table.
I believe it is reasonable that once the instruction period ends in theory, the moment the judge deems it appropriate,
I'll head back over to Visual Studio and I'll try and get it fixed.